Hey, everybody, it's Steve Wilmes.
And it's Matt Keita.
And Matt Keita. And we're back with another episode of the Risk Control Show. Hey, today we're talking about a very tragic loss, the stabbing of an EMT in New York, unprovoked by someone that was mentally unstable. Right. And this brings up a lot of kind of issues. So our heart goes out to the family, friends, children, grandchildren.
Lieutenant Russo Elling.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's unreal what transpires there, but I think it really comes back to kind of the employer's responsibility of protecting our EMTs, and it speaks to what's going on in this country and our policies and procedures.
Right.
You can talk about the whole defund movement. You can talk about the gun bans and the weapons and all these types of things. But, here, when we go out and train folks, we become close to these individuals. And
they're great.
They're fantastic. Yeah. They're ordinary people like ourselves, trying to have a life, trying to get through all the difficulties and challenges and tragedies that a human being faces. And to have to go to work and face something like that is unreal. And I think, administrators in New York, this comes back to our fault versus responsibility. And quite frankly, you should be ashamed of yourselves. And I hold back quite a bit. Mm-hmm. In our professional life, but quite frankly, I'm getting tired of holding back.
Yeah.
Especially when things like this happen. Hey, you have an incident where there's a car crash, or heart attack, or, some minor injury. Well, I can forgive that a little bit. Some of these circumstances are outside our control. Yeah. But when someone is getting stabbed on your city streets, we got real serious problems, and they go way beyond. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Matt, but I was just kind of, I get a little irritated with employers' responsibilities and the lack of following through on them.
Right. And honestly, it's hard to know. Each situation can present unique difficulties.
Sure.
And we understand that we can only do so much to protect people who are interacting with public, and a situation can develop that is completely unplanned for. This happens quite a lot. But I think if you have some basic standard policies in place, for instance, take this, this individual who attacked the EMT stabbed her like 20 times. So,
which is, if you watch footage of stabbings, going back to Krav Maga and the kind of training that I do, you look at prison stabbings, you look at these, it's not a, one stab real slow. It's
yep.
And so that's something that you got to be ready for. But yeah, 20 times is horrific.
Exactly. And when I think about that, I go like, well, was an officer there? That EMT is there because of a 911.
Right.
That goes out to everybody.
Or just she was walking into a bodega to get some stuff, which we all do throughout our day, right? We go through, we stop, we have lunch, we go grab a coffee, we go grab a soda, we may need whatever. I don't know. Who knows what we need? But again, these bodegas in New York have become the epicenter for all kinds of crime. And when we look at OSHA and the regulations there that say, hey, there's an unrecognized hazard. Once you understand that hazard is recognized, you need to do something to address it. Have we seen that bodegas are a hot spot of criminal activity?
Of course.
Hello.
Right. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. If you have a 911 and you have a situation where there's a suspicious individual, or at least somebody who's suffering from something enough that you feel it's necessary for an EMT to be on site and evaluating them for possible further medical treatment at a larger facility, then you would think you would want an officer there as well, because you don't know what the intentions were of that person there in the first place, what they're going through. It's clear now that this gentleman was mentally unhinged, and you really needed to approach that situation a lot more carefully. And I'm not familiar, of course, with New York City's standards for how they approach that.
Well, again, I mean, this EMT was just walking into a bodega.
Yeah.
You know, so, but you're right in the sense that, hey, if you have a 5150, a mental issue, usually you want an officer there.
Right.
Right. And that goes back to this defund the police. Like, you can't just have mental health professionals out there all the time. Sometimes you need force.
Right.
And when they're unhinged like that, like you say, and you can say, oh, well, you're exaggerating the mental capacity issues, or you're being rude, or whatever. Hey, anyone that's taking the life of another has a mental capacity issue.
Yes.
When you're not doing it under the guise of war,
self-defense,
stuff like that, right? You're just out there stabbing people for no reason on the street. You got a mental issue, which brings me to the point of OSHA, unrecognized hazards, recognized hazards. This is not a new incident.
Yeah.
In the sense of types of incidents. This is not a new hazard. We see that even when you go to this website here, this EMS 1 deaths, and you're looking at this is her particular entry into this. But when you go down, you'll see, and I think there's somewhat of a dirty picture here. I don't want to go too far down. I can't believe this is just like out here.
Website.
Yeah, it's just but anyway, you have this after you have shootings. You see that in bank robberies, like the famous LA bank robbery where they had the EMTs were not responding to the victims because they were under fire.
Yeah.
So these are recognized hazards. So this takes me back when I was married to criminology professor. Mm-hmm. And my former wife would do a lot of research in the field.
Okay.
And she would ride around with probation. She would ride around with officers, and she would do door knocks when they would go and follow up.
Right.
And I said to her, like, where's your bulletproof vest?
Right.
And she's like, I don't need that, blah, blah, blah.
You don't need that until you do need that.
Right, exactly. Right. And so one night we were at dinner, and I sometimes have the title of being a crap disturber.
No comment.
No comment. But I do it out of the kindness and love in my heart for people.
Yeah.
And especially for my former wife.
Of course.
Who is the mother of my child, who I want to make sure has a mother for the rest of her life.
Right.
As long as possible. So we're out with the chair of the department at the time, and I said, well, what kind of analysis have you guys performed on the risks and the safety hazards involved with this type of thing? Mm-hmm. I mean, here the university takes 30% indirect fees for research, but doesn't want to provide the tools necessary for the professors that work in the universities. Right. So you're out doing research, and you're walking into criminals' homes, convicted criminals, ones that are out on parole, probation, whatever. Mm-hmm. There's some form of conviction there, sometimes violent crimes and everything else. And how many times have we seen? So in recent, we have all the stuff around Black Lives Matter with the young lady that the police knocked on the door. Mm-hmm. There were shots fired. They were in the wrong apartment, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So how many times is that a real scenario? So I kid you not, after this dinner, I can tell everyone's a little upset, but I'm very serious about it.
Right.
Like, You're gonna
it's the safety of your wife.
It's the safety of my wife.
Yeah.
So I'll get you a bulletproof vest. Wear the bulletproof vest. Don't be stupid. I kid you not. 2 weeks later, one of these parole knocks checkups went wrong.
Oh, wow.
And there were shots fired. And it is a hazard.
Yeah.
So EMT, you're looking at EMT. What are the types of protective equipment? What is your PPE hazard analysis that you perform for EMT?
Right. Yeah. It's funny because they probably have to do kind of a cost analysis, on whether or not wearing certain gear will interfere in their primary duties of saving lives.
Sure.
So from my perspective, there's always a workaround that will be effective in most situations. Maybe like I could see a bulletproof vest, for instance, getting in the way of them performing their duties.
Sure.
Yeah.
I could see that too.
Yeah. But I mean,
how about Kevlar clothing?
Right. Exactly. There are other options.
Some slash resistant, cut resistant clothing that you can put on. I mean, we have in the motorcycle world, we have all kinds of skid gear and heat resistance and all built into our blue jeans. And yeah, maybe they weigh a couple more ounces, but in the overall of this, how are you protecting the vital organs of someone that may be stabbed?
Right.
Right. And we're seeing this in our society more and more. We're seeing a lot more. Homicide rates are up. Gun violence is up.
Yep.
I'm assuming stabbing rates are up.
Right.
When they announced the numbers on the news yesterday, that some 1,000 firefighters, EMT, have lost their lives in the line of duty in this short period of time. Looking at it, go back 100 years, that's 10 a year. That's 10 too many, right? Like, especially for a death like this. And again, it just breaks my heart that this grandmother out there doing service for everyone else, her life is snuffed out by some maniac.
Yeah, a 9/11 responder too.
Yeah, 9/11 responder. Yeah. So what are you doing when you do your PPE hazard analysis? And I'm sorry, technologies change. Uniforms are great. You want to look presentable, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Get it. Have your dress uniforms, have your working uniforms. There should be some type of cut resistant, slash resistant, Kevlar type of clothing that even if it's an undershirt, something that helps to protect those vital areas, just to give you a little better chance at life. And this is just unreal, but policies and procedures. And if you're not going to get the help of your prosecutor, your DA, the governor, the mayor, whatever, then you have to start looking at protecting your employees in a different way.
Yeah. And involve other agencies. Have an officer on site to help you.
If you can find, if they have enough.
If they have enough. Yeah, exactly. We're saying that as if, we understand that there are, like you said, mentioned, there's a movement in some areas to defund the police. Budgets are going down. Budgets are always kind of tight for this sort of thing. But honestly, you can't put a price on a life.
No.
You need to have a trained officer there to help protect EMTs and firefighters. We saw, was it just a couple months ago, there was a fire in Houston and somebody started firing on the firefighters that were going in to put the fire out in the house.
Right.
You need an officer of the law there to help protect
I think it's indicative when you hear in media these words played over and over and over again. It's crazy. It's insane. It's out of control. This has been the common theme for the past year.
Right.
And it's just every media outlet, same things. We are at a critical mass point with this stuff, and it is something that we have to focus in on. The deaths are enormous. Chicago, St. Louis, all these areas are just their exponential growth in murders and homicides. Yes. And, you know, I think back to the wild, wild west. This is really, really much worse than that.
We have to stop using terms like crazy or insane and accept that, no, guys, this is kind of standard right now. Yeah. We need to start preparing for standard and not view it as outliers.
You know, as much as Israel is a hotbed of controversy, they are constantly under attack from all sides. And, you know, it's something that they have to learn to live with, to fight for their lives every day.
Yep.
And you know, if you're going to be out there, then, you know, you got to look at some of these skills, these perishable skills, and fight skills are one of them. You have to learn how to protect yourself, and you got to practice that stuff on a routine basis.
Yep.
So anyway, I think I just wanted to again say, you know, our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. This is really a tragedy, and I hope that anyone that is in charge of other people's safety can listen to this and understand that the core message is: do your analysis, get your people the right gear that they need, get them the training that they need, and make sure that they have the right resources available to them to not lose their life in a silly, ridiculous manner like this.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right. And don't forget, if you like this and you're watching it on the article, we do have the YouTube channel, so you can always check in there and take a peek and see what's what. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the Risk Control Show.
See you, folks.